Okay, we're on. I got my red dot. We're back. It's Halo 3. I said it might be the day after Halo 2 ended. Not quite, but I think we've still got the momentum up. I wanted to check a couple of things about the production, remind myself of the general story of how this thing got made, and I feel like I've done that to a decent extent, and I also just was doing other things for a couple of days. Nothing that exciting. As you can see, I last played this on Legendary. I have beaten the game on that. No skulls. What I was just looking at here was the mission rack. You can see it's kind of stacked. The epilogue and intro cutscene are their own levels listed in the thing. If you actually look at what are real levels in this game, you'll see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's one less than the original game. It didn't roll cutscenes into things, they roll very big and substantial. Halo 2, if you stack it up, it's not that long either. It also does the stacking cutscenes to make its level list look longer trick, but yeah, point I'm getting at is just that you could really feel that Bungie were kind of... Halo 2 was strained, as we were saying. It didn't quite become what it was meant to be. It was meant to be Halo Combat Evolved. Jason Jones was happy for that to be one game, and then he'd leave that be. That would be our Halo. Very happy to leave things, not everything has to be said. And then Halo 2 comes out. Joseph Staten is very happy to iron it out into a big movie game where he can really make some things more explicit, show you the inner workings of a lot of stuff. And I think he does that very elegantly. He's not... The trends haven't developed yet. He isn't allowed to indulge himself writing page-long descriptions of items and pickups. And Joseph Staten is actually someone who I would consider, if he did that, I might actually read them, but it's very funny that that's a tendency that developed in video games after they effectively stopped being writer-driven. It's all just kind of meaningless genre copy. Every piece of shit you pick up in New Doom, a game which is about nothing and has nothing to say, has more fucking text attached to it than the entire script of Halo Combat Evolved. Very fucking absurd. But anyway, yes, we went from Jason Jones being very happy to leave Halo 1 bare bones. It wasn't the game it was meant to be. It was very cut down, but it's still a very elegant and novel thing, and it expresses still a lot of very complex and interesting underlying ideas. Complex for a game, for science fiction, not mind-blowing, but still very ambitious and very well executed. And then Halo 2 iterates on them, and I really get the impression Joseph Staten... I've been reading... I said I was looking into some things. I've been reading, basically going through what I considered really important things people from Bungie had said about the production of the game, discussing it with a couple of people. Specifically the writing, and the impression I really get is that within Bungie, Joseph Staten was probably the most important other writer, as in both determining what you see in finished Bungie works and also in terms of writer, as in creating the sole premise and point of what everything is going to be drawing from. He was a heavy contributor to the Halo Bible and discussed a lot of things with Jason Jones and worked out what Halo was going to be, and he wrote 2 novels for Halo eventually. One came out a month after Halo 3, that's the more important one, Contact Harvest, and his comments on the production of that novel are, I think, very important. You can kind of get a lot of an idea of what it was like to work for Bungie, what it was like to make these games, the relationship between all of the production design work and what finally makes it into a game. Really just looking into a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. My respect for Joseph Staten goes up and up and up, frankly. Jason Jones, I think, is the guy. Halo exists because we have Jason Jones, and he is, is one of the great minds, personalities, and wills behind, especially American or Western video games, but I would say he has actually developed and earned an all-time great status. He has just done that much brilliant stuff, but Joseph Staten as well, like, what a guy, just kind of showed up after being kind of between things in life in that relatable way. He meets the Bungie team through Myth multiplayer games, gets taken on, makes his own way to their headquarters, and kind of does business side stuff, becomes a creative guy learning game tools, builds Halo's cinematic presentation, and becomes kind of just about, you could say, almost the director of Halo 2. I want to say, like, I think we didn't get to see the credits because the Master Chief Collection is fucking stupid, but I think Jason Jones is listed as the director of Halo 2, but really, what I was laying out with some friends earlier, I think I'm pretty happy with this reading, is that Halo 1, primarily a Jason Jones vision game if you want to give it to one person. And of course, Bungie, they have that kind of very harmonious Japanese workplace dynamic going where kind of everyone is working hard there, so you can't really call it one person's work or achievement. It's really everyone's. I'm sorry, I realized my controller's not plugged in. Give me a moment to fiddle with that while I talk. There we go. Anyway, yes. Lots of creative actors. It really is kind of like the balls flying around. Everyone's doing great work. You know, Jason Jones, Joseph Staten, the Microsoft editors Eric Nyland and Eric Troutman. You've got Shi Kai Wang doing a lot of visual-driven stuff, but, you know, everything is writing. He really kind of shapes conceptually what the world of Halo is through that. Same for Rob McLeese, their survivalist gun guy who, yeah, worked out a lot of the military aesthetics, but I believe he was also the one who kind of drew what the Flood would look like, you know, very important stuff. But yes, ultimately, like, because of being kind of the seed idea guy, maybe you want to say he should share that role with Greg Kirkpatrick due to shared influence of working on Marathon together. I don't know, but even then, like, due to the distance, I think if there is one creative will who we can stamp onto and call kind of most important for Halo Combat Evolved, that's got to be Jason Jones. And then for Halo 2, the more I read, the more I get the impression, okay, this is kind of Joseph Staten's game. Like, he is the one with the interest in cinematics, and Halo 2 is kind of a pioneering and trailblazing movie game alongside Half-Life 2, and as I kept saying, I think it's actually better than Half-Life 2 in many ways. So, yes, you've got the cinematic game, Joseph Staten, and he's also the one who wants to make things explicit. He is less like Jason Jones in that way. He's not content to just, like, recede off and start experimenting in a new way. He's like, no, I want people to, like, get Halo. I want to be able to show off all of its bits and pieces. So he creates a richer story in which more of the world is explored, like, in detail, and things are said out loud rather than hanging. And it's still a good game because Joseph Staten, he's still, like, he's not a bug or an idiot. He is a guy who takes science fiction very seriously, takes games seriously, and worked on this from the start, and really, I think, has a very sound grip on the most key thematic workings, meanings, and points of things within Halo. And yeah, if you read his novels, he, like, what's important to understand about Staten, I think, is a line he has that I'm pretty sure we can even read on Wikipedia, and we'll talk about the Wikipedia pages a lot, how they have some very good information and some things where you clearly have to kind of read between the lines. You're looking at court history. But what's important, and you can take 100% at his word, is Joseph Staten saying that, like, yes, with the games we're kind of skimming across the surface, but with a novel I really get to, like, go into things and show you the world of Halo. That's not a direct quote, of course I do everything off the top of my head, but if you look around the Halo Wikipedia pages, the Staten ones, the one for his novel Contact Harvest, you'll see him getting at that sentiment, and what I think is important is that, yes, he wants to make things explicit, but show them to you in a good, proper way with respect to whatever medium he's working in. If he's making a novel, it will be a very good novel. If he's making a game, it will be a good game. And it will, whatever he's working with, he wants to express and show you everything and, you know, get at the ideas, not just show you the lore, the stuff. But he's very good at that. He is a man very well suited to bringing this world to life through elaborate stories, which elaborate upon what's there correctly. He's not just like building these weird, idiotic junk fan fiction annexes. So, yeah, if you do like Halo, I can recommend basically every novel written clearly within the Bungie era, and probably the only thing written outside of that, which is interesting. We'll get onto that. The only one that's of interest to me outside of that is Statton's second novel. He was brought back into Microsoft as a kind of creative guy who oversaw a couple of failed Xbox One games. I don't think that's his fault. That was just a horrific time to be working in video games, and he wasn't really a creative director so much as just a guy on the team, but those games were ReCore and Crackdown 3. Yay. I actually liked Crackdown 1. It's kind of like a Western Kusoge, like EDF type thing, but, American early Xbox 360 game, everything that comes with that. But as far as that goes, like early, relatively unknown Xbox 360 game, it's about as good as that could be. From the sounds of it, the Xbox One Crackdown 3 was just like basically everything wrong with that generation coming to a head. Pointless, crappy celebrity actors, the power of the crowd, tie-in apps, multiplayer gimmick modes that fucking died while the console was still alive. Just sad. They didn't know what they wanted video games to be at that point, so Joseph Staten didn't get to do good work. But what he did do was he wrote a novella called Shadow of Intent. This is the only other thing he wrote on paper as science fiction for Halo. As far as I know, he hasn't written any other science fiction, but he's not bad. I think he could. But yes, what he did was, after the 343 lore commenced and Halo became about this successor conflict between the butt forerunners, who are just butt-faced alien nonsense creatures, and Cortana going insane and having a generic supervillain plot, or whatever the fuck was happening in Halo 5, in 2015, in the middle of this failed 343 reconsideration of what Halo is, he writes a novel which is just a direct sequel following some characters, direct sequel to Halo 3, which I think tells you where his heart is, that he basically didn't care for that and just decided to, like, if he's going to do more work on Halo, he is just going to make something which fits in the Bungie canon, as far as I can tell, and that it may be an attempt to kind of harmonize Halo 3 with what he originally envisioned the story to be with 2 as much as he could, to kind of iron out some problems with 3's plot. I haven't finished Shadow of Intent. I'll comment more on that in this series. I'll probably finish it tomorrow, but anyway. Sorry, this is usually the kind of thing I bounce around inside a room for, but this game's first level isn't great for that, so I'm going to keep talking for a minute. If you watch these, surely you don't mind my voice and not much else going on, so sorry, bear with me here. This is just basically prequel stuff to Halo 3. These videos are largely about the production, because that's where so much of what's interesting in Halo comes up, and not a lot of it manifests so clearly in the game world that I can point at it. It's stuff that'll happen like quickly in the story that I'll have to flip through with you guys, but yes, where I was going is that Halo 2 is really Joseph Statten's game, and he has always been happy to work on and within the Bungie original vision, and I believe that it was largely his. And that unfortunately leads us to where we are now. Why did he, in 2015, write a game that was kind of a sequel to this rather than 343? For one, because I think he understood 343's story was shit. For another, I think this story left him unhappy. Now, the story of Halo 3. You can actually just look on the Wikipedia section for the page for Halo 3, the development section. These tend to be often very, very good, especially if you follow the links and look further, if the links aren't dead, like half of them tend to be on Wikipedia. Because so much important information on video games is contained in, like, IGN side project interviews from 2011. Not well preserved, unfortunately. But yes, the general gist of what happened in Halo 3's development. Jason Jones, after Halo 2 launched, he went on what Wikipedia politely calls a sabbatical. but I think I've heard in a couple of production featurettes and interviews that it's more like Jones just went AWOL. Like, it wasn't like a good job team, we'll break up and meet back in a month. Like, he was just fucking gone for a while. And yeah, Halo 2 succeeded despite all the problems, but the new game had to get done, people had to take charge and decide what the game was going to be. And the two strongest wills, the two strongest personalities who were creatively most at the core of Halo were Joseph Staten and Marty O'Donnell. And what happened was a kind of committee formed, is how it is put, and they were working out what Halo would be in detail so they could start production. And what happened is, Wikipedia kind of tries to rush this by you. It's kind of the polite court history, but if you think about it, you'll see something is wrong. It says something like, due to disagreements, Joseph Staten went on vacation for a while. Is that what you do when you're going through creative disagreements? Like this big, most important project for your company is coming up. The inner committee has formed since the king is, I don't know, gone fishing or whatever. And you're all just kind of back and forth, and yeah, the guy who wrote half the story Bible, maybe that's a bit much, but a guy who's very much kind of core writing team specifically is on one side, and he is the one who kind of gets sent on his way, and the other side get their way. What are you left with? It's kind of ambiguous. You have to pass a lot of materials because people don't say this stuff out loud too clearly. Like Marty O'Donnell and Joseph Staten, they're at heart very nice guys. They don't want to say 20 years later in interviews oh yeah, we fought and fucking there was a duel and one of us got exiled for a little while over how Halo 3 would turn out. They're both very civil guys, but I think that's kind of what happened. Sorry if I put that in mean terms. Sorry, Marty and Joseph, if you end up watching this, but it sounds like there was some disagreement and maybe things had the potential to get a bit hairy, so Joseph with a bit of leaning on, a bit of compulsion, steps away for a little while, and the Marty-led committee, which I think might also consist of Rob McLeese, Frank O'Connor, a name you'll hear spoken of very negatively in a few contexts because, he really became a more and more creative lead after this game, which means into the 343 era. Poor Frank, I think he always meant well, but a lot of, I don't quite think he was a real heavy art fag game and production leading material. He was at best a kind of a affable enough guy you could keep around the office to fill gaps and give you kind of generic normal guy feedback on ideas. I don't want to have pointedly negative feelings towards any particular people, but that's kind of what comes through. And also I'd imagine on this committee there's a lot of just kind of guys who were around who weren't key players but who were more or less important. I'm sure a lot of them were very nice people, but probably none of them were the type who would have the ability to generate something like Halo within them, but who could work quite well enough within a company that has something like this going. Anyway, that's a long way for me to get around to saying Halo 3 was written by committee, and the core Halo team member with the most influence was Marty O'Donnell, who I think being primarily the sound guy, he did a lot, he was largely directing voice acting sessions and such, and of course the music is all him. He is not insignificant, but, it's kind of the most distant job from writing, which can still leave you in the core creative team, and where things kind of go, I think, especially if you look at Marty talk about Halo now, is that, he kind of had a less complex relationship with and understanding of Halo than a lot of his, well, not a lot, than his, real core, assembling the lore Bible team, basically especially Jason Jones and Joseph Staten, and both of them kind of being nudged away from core leadership and writing kind of informed the character of this game to a degree that is uncomfortably noticeable at times, even though this is a very fast game which, doesn't lean on you with a lot of heavy cinematic writing or verbiage, but again, the whole work is a kind of a manifestation and final crystallization of its production and all of the ideas there, and yeah, you'll see what Halo as designed by a committee looks like in Halo 3. Still a Bungie committee, mostly, fundamentally. Like, lots of these people, if not most, had already worked on Halo at some point and were, part of the team, but yeah, it's that whole complex question of, like, where does Halo come from? If you're like me, you might get the impression that, I had this instinctively when I first played this game as a teenager. I was a bit late getting around to it, that something essentially Halo was missing, and I don't like to pontificate and sigh max and get wistful about Soul. I prefer to investigate these things, and yes, I have concluded, and my friends who know Halo's production pretty much agree with me that, yes, there was an unfortunate kind of pushing out of core creative team members, and people who maybe had a shallower and less rich idea of what Halo is were more in charge and pushing it sort of away from the vision, and also just kind of having simpler ideas that they couldn't do as much with. But at the same time, this game does pick up right where Halo 2 left off, so they have a lot of inertia, a lot of steam behind them, so not a lot could get changed, but I think a lot of the spiritual problems of Bungie that really kind of manifested in Destiny and 343, both different manifestations of the same problem, I think they're starting here, but the symptoms aren't so bad. We'll elaborate further as we start the game, and I can point to things. Sorry, thanks for bearing with me with the whole menu talk. But yeah, where did we leave off? Prophet of Truth had abandoned his people and is flying a Forerunner ship to Earth, and the Arbiter has killed Tartarus, and the elites are liberated, no longer
They let
deluded.
me pick. Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever Spartan I
And this is
want.
how the story goes in Halo now. These kind of wistful Hollywood
I did my
monologues.
research, watched as you became the soldier we needed you to be. Like the others, you were strong and swift and brave. A natural leader.
I don't hate this intro. We get a nice setting of the scene. That's,
Something
I
no
believe,
one saw
Mount...
but me.
Is that Mount Kilimanjaro? I'm not sure, but we're in Africa.
Can you guess? Luck.
And yeah, this isn't as ambitious an opening as the last two games, but I really believe the most charitable way to read Halo 3 is the last act of Halo 2, so Halo 1 and 2 have these brilliant scene-setting openings, and this one is basically like a level intro aside from that Cortana monologue, which I don't think is a great way to introduce Halo, and a lot of people did start the game on Halo 3, which is rather weird.
This ain't good. Damn. How far did he fall?
2 kilometers, easy.
Stay sharp.
And yeah, Johnson got back to Earth. The timeline is a bit funny on that, but yeah. They got back to Earth, Truth
Norman,
was going to
His
Earth,
armor's locked up.
the Master Chief
Gel
was
layer
on
could've
his
taken
ship,
most of the
and the Master Chief apparently jumped off Truth's ship
I don't know,
to
Sergeant
get
Major.
away and reunite with human forces. And there's Johnson again, he's back in his gear. The aesthetics of Marine gear have changed a bit, we'll talk about that when we're up and we have a moment. Probably in the next level. And yeah, this game's visually
for
in the
Vito.
Master Chief
Heavy
collection.
lift gear.
It's just... Sorry,
Not leaving them
I'll
here.
elaborate when we get up.
Yeah, you're not.
The Master
Crazy
Chief is
fool.
back!
Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna land on something as stubborn as you are. And I don't do bits and pieces.
That's a nice little moment there for the characters, but it really leans on knowing who they are.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
She stayed behind.
Corporal,
And
make
asking
it
where
quick.
Cortana is, again,
Sorry,
like,
sir.
for this scene
Your
to be
armor's still in
compelling at
partial
all, you have to know
Look up
what
here, sir.
happened at the end of the last scene. Oh, and they do give us one of these,
Okay.
which is nice. But it's very
down
impromptu. Like, yes, it's
Good.
a guy just field testing us, and also this whole scene, it's...
Everything checks out, Sergeant Major.
Kick off the training wheels, Corporal.
I just remember immediately finding this game weird that they just they really don't bother setting the scene substantially at all, like they don't give a fuck.
Pete,
Die,
wait.
Elite!
The Arbiter's with us. Come on now. Got enough to worry about without you two trying to kill each other.
Were it so easy.
Yay, Keith David's back.
We must go. The brutes have our scent.
I might have talked a bit about
They
voice
must
acting in the
love
last
the
game.
smell of green.
But yeah, it's really impressive how Bungie always got great performances out of their, like, little, like, relatively no-name people. Like, the voice of Cortana, again, was just an actress who had done a couple of little things, nothing much, and, yeah, like Stacker, the, guy who plays Captain Keyes, the Marine voices, like, some of these people had jobs in acting adjacent things, or they were, like, voice actors for commercials and stuff. I think Stacker, Captain Keyes, actually worked on the, like, I think his credits list that he does, like, voiceover announcing for the Oprah Winfrey Show, so, like, that's not nothing, but his job is to just, like, be a voice in the void, which is quite funny. But yeah, like, they get great performances out of everyone. I think it's probably largely just the passion and depth of the material, but yes, they were able to integrate celebrities and such into that very well. Just looking it up before, I only just learned that Miranda Keyes is one of the actresses from Buffy. I didn't know that. And that kind of ties into some stuff we'll have to talk about soon, unfortunately, but yes, also that's Keith David, the black guy from The Thing who argues with Kurt Russell. He is great in this, and the, what's his name, like, the Italian guy, like Robert Davi or whatever his name I mentioned, he's the guy from Showgirls and a bunch of other stuff. He's great as basically the other Elite who is a real character, the Commander. And, sorry. But yeah, just great voice acting in these games, of course, and still they keep that up. I was reading, it's weird, there are like 10,000 lines of potential character dialogue in Halo 2, which is nuts considering that's a relatively short game in which only so much can happen. But yeah, they really over-designed, which I think it's kind of a shame because that's such a... like, that level of reactivity really benefits best from an environment, you know, what the kids might call a sandbox, like opportunities to really play with the characters and make them react to each other in different ways and do different things. And Halo 2 is basically a linear movie game, so you don't really get an opportunity for that. And Halo 3, again, relatively short. They try to open things up a bit, but still pretty much an enclosed movie game. This has 40,000 lines of potential NPC actor dialogue that can go off in-game. That's crazy, considering that this is not that long a game, and yeah, it can lead to entertaining stuff, like in one of the late videos of the last one on the level Gravemind, when one of our Marines dies, I think David Cross butts in and says, like, "Why is it always the beautiful ones?" over the body of another Marine, and that's pretty goddamn funny, and that kind of detail is... yeah, it's always very essentially Bungie, like, characters just say funny, crazy shit all the way back to, like, Marathon 1. The characters running around have weird lines they shout spontaneously. Kind of a defining characteristic of the human NPCs in that game. And yeah, they keep it up here, which I like, just it really kind of highlights how the game is not really playing to the mechanical underlying strengths of how Bungie builds stuff single-player-wise, that, yeah, like 40,000 lines of potential dialogue to go off. Imagine if this game was built like Myth, if every level was just like big and open and we start and basically anything can happen from there. Like, me and the Marines go one way or another, and we have 20 different kinds of fights. It's a level I want to play 50 times over. Then if I play that for years and years, I might eventually almost hear all 40,000 lines. Instead, we have a linear kind of movie game you can beat in like 3 hours casually. Maybe like 3.5, I don't know. And that movie game, which isn't that long, like the length of 2 regular sit-down movies, has 40,000 lines of, context-sensitive, triggerable dialogue. How many of those are you going to hear? It's kind of tragic to think about. And yes, I kind of mentioned it looking at the level select screen, how we have, like, fake levels there to pad the length. I always noticed, looking back, I think games journalism was actually pretty good until the, like, shitty copyright clickbait era, when they were basically running, like, Japanese journalism, where, like, basically the only problem was that they were overly positive and couldn't really warn you about a bad game, and I think the answer to that, looking back on that as an adult, is basically just, like, grow the fuck up. If you accept that they are otherwise, like, fine, they have quality standards for the most part. Like, this was the closest environment we had to games journalism working like it does in Japan. Like, I've asked my Japanese friend who I talk games with about that, and he's just like, yeah, everyone takes it for granted that, like, Famitsu will just, like, for the sake of good relations and being civil, just, like, not shit on a game made by a big established developer, like, no matter what. And you kind of read between the lines, like the meme of IGN saying, like, 9.8, it was okay. Like, yeah, Famitsu was like that. 35 out of 40, it was okay. If you're not an idiot, you just accept that and it's no problem. Like, yeah, journalism coverage of Halo 3 was very elaborate. Like, I was listening to a IGN interview with Joseph Staten before. The interview wasn't very good. The guys were obviously kind of like cretinous morons with very shallow conceptions of video games and entertainment, but, they were putting on the show, and they got Joseph Staten's ass in the booth for a little while to talk about Halo with them and writing Contact Harvest, and at least a bit of interesting information came out of there. And, like, what is journalism now? After that, it collapsed into, like, 10 years of hostile psychological warfare, and now, as far as I know, it's basically dead, killed by YouTube. After the USAID money ran out, they all just dried up. But that was not the worst era. But anyway, why I brought that up, I've noticed a few times that, like, games that I play, which are considered classic, and I play them and I have kind of mixed feelings. Basically any game before, like, 2010 or so, if I look at the, like, popular reception part on Wikipedia, actually a very good chance that I'll find, like, my complaints, quibbles, and revisions with this classic echoed by journalists of the time. Like, I actually think someone is editing the page of Silent Hill 2 periodically to remove this stuff, but, like, that's a game I always had kind of, like, in my mind, that's a very, like, 7 out of 10 work, which is, like, genuinely kind of weak as a complete art fag whole compared to Silent Hill 1 and 3, and yeah, game journalists from America in, like, 2004 who were considered idiots, like, no, I think they had, like, a very mature, non-hysteric reaction to this thing, which was more clear-sighted and artistically coherent than critically coherent than the kind of dumb praise it gets now. And back to bringing this into relevance, the Halo 3 reception section talks about how the single player was received at the time by critics, and yeah, I actually largely agree with them that, like, Halo 3 as a campaign experience, if you don't have Xbox Live, it's kind of disappointing. A lot of them were saying that, like, yeah, it's short, the plot as far as it happens is a bit kind of generic but sci-fi action. They don't use my language, but in their own ways they say this, and they're just like, yeah, it's, like, not amazing value. Like, yeah, here's the conclusion to Halo, and it's just kind of short and okay, but the game still had, like, the greatest integration. It was probably at the time, and it's still largely, the model still largely holds to today, that it had, like, the greatest mass-oriented multiplayer experience in video game history at the time, and it's still fundamentally good. Like, a lot of online games are still basically Halo 2 or 3 online. Like, that was what they really had to deliver, and they did, so props to them. This game still, it earned its sales and gave a lot of people good times, but yeah, if this game didn't have multiplayer, I think it would be remembered as kind of bad. And we are really going to critically appraise this thing in depth, don't you worry. I just want to really get all of this preliminary stuff out of the way, because again, unfortunately, short game and a lot of the intrigue and stuff that defines the character of this game, rather than being stuff we can discover as it unfolds organically before us, is stuff that I just have to dig through and find in old interview scraps and such and talk through with my friends as we remember things we half remember Joseph Staten saying 10 years ago or whatever. Bit of a mess, but we'll get there. So, I hope you like this starting area. We might push ourselves forward in a moment now, but yes, I hope you understand you're roughly on the same foundation as me for how we are going to appreciate Halo 3, and I still will call this series Let's Appreciate Halo 3, but what is going on here? So, in short, all that I was trying to convey to you there is the creative team has essentially started undergoing a transformation by this point, and this game very much just had to be made. Bungie had accepted that they were kind of a one game at a time Hollywood production factory now. Not perfectly integrated into Microsoft. Funnily enough, there was a desire in the core team to creatively move away and become free, for Bungie to become that. But at the same time, core creative members were being alienated, so it's kind of a, by the time they achieve independence from Microsoft, it's a bit pointless because their capacity to be a creatively vital and virile and creative force is basically drained by their experiences at Bungie over the course of 15 or so years. But I believe around the time of Halo 3, the contract was 3 more Halo games, and those were this, ODST, and Reach. And then Bungie was a free company again, and we now know how that turned out. But yes, what does it even mean to be a free company? I think it's very obvious that in the mind of Jason Jones, who I believe was the driving creative force at Bungie, they were already not free, and their way of working was already so compromised as to basically be like Bungie was over. Like he was trying to kind of get that energy of experimentation back when Destiny was in development, and that didn't work, and led to the whole dramatic breakup of the team, which is a bit speculative, my narrative of that. You can ask me that in the comments. I may have written what I think happened there before, but anyway, the team just couldn't get it together again, couldn't get happy with how they were working. Destiny, I believe, was unhappy. It was all a mess. This game, though, yes, Bungie kind of, with a couple of key creative cogs removed, was pretty happy to get working on this, and a lot of production design going on, and honestly, I think that some of the stuff going on around Halo 3 is more interesting than the campaign itself. Like, if you look at the advertising for this game, it had a $40 million advertising budget. Some of that stuff is probably, in retrospect, more interesting than actually playing this bloody campaign. Like, one of the ads, I think the trailer is called Believe. It's this, like, little ultra-detailed little diorama scene of little toy-like Marines and Covenant fighting. I found that very compelling, and they have trailers that are like war documentaries on humanity's war with the Covenant. It's all very, very elaborate and thought out. They took that seriously, and I think a suggestion I've raised to people a few times is that I think Halo, if treated right, could have been America's Warhammer 40k. And what I mean by that is it could have been basically an arc for a lot of good ideas taken from the past of popular commercial and ideas-based and, just genuine culture, and a robust excuse to keep working within and iterating upon those. Where, like, Warhammer 40k in England is basically the arc for making white man-pleasing science fiction. It's so old that it has cultural tenure, and nobody questions the underlying conceptual bones of it, which are basically things that you can't get off the ground in 2020's England. But, you know, it's already there, and because of that, it is basically single-handedly keeping commercial popular culture alive in that country for a lot of people. And Halo could have been that for Americans, you know, it's a relatively hard science fiction premise with roots in, you know, hard 20th century science fiction and the classics. It is a very rich well to draw on. Lots of very talented people created lots of very interesting and compelling parts, and if Microsoft just managed this with a bit of care and just said like, hey, Company A, you go make a Halo thing, Company B, you make a movie, you guys make a comic, you guys make a novel, and they didn't fuck with the fundamentals, if they basically appreciated and respected them, Halo could have just kept going, and Halo 3 is kind of proof of that, you know, no one was that upset with this game. Guys like me aren't super happy with it, but I would consider it acceptable, and I think I called Halo Wars as well kind of a faithful son of the series. Like, in interviews, Joseph Staten will speak positively about that and the experience of it. Like, other people will say, like, yeah, the Bungie guys weren't crazy about us, and Joseph Staten is a very nice guy who, like, if he's in a bad mood, he won't say it, is just the impression I get. If he's feuding with people, if asked in an interview, he'll be like, yeah, they're great, we love working with them, great guys. Like, that's just who he is, and in general, I think these were very, like, benign people, all of them. Like, that's just where, like, nerd culture and media production culture, gaming culture, it was all very much like that. Just very much like the good faith meritocracy of guys who have a legitimate reason to be here, and so are all, like, good, nice people happy to, you know, make things work, because that's what they believe in. Okay. I might just make myself play the game now. I'm sure I have more thoughts I could have covered here, but gee, we'll be here all day otherwise. But wait, have I told you the one about the guy, the American in Hideo Kojima's office at this time when, like, Metal Gear Solid 4 is in development, when he gets Halo 3 imported on launch day and fires it up in the office and Kojima stands over his shoulder? I think I did. Anyway, what Hideo Kojima said when he first saw this area of the game was, it's a good tangent into talking about how this game looks. He tells the guy, he's not like mad at the guy for playing Halo in his office, he says, shoot that fern. And then he kind of does a Japanese sage nod and walks away. But yeah, Halo 3 production starts not long after Halo 2. We jump from the Xbox to the Xbox 360. We have more power. What do we have to show for it? The game is still fundamentally Bungie in its bones. It's very much hard feeling terrain. Someone made a good comment recently, I think, about how to talk about the sense of depth and presence of physical stuff in the terrain, but I forgot that. I'll have to check. If you are that person, I haven't answered the last run of comments yet. I'll go back and do that now, and if you are that person, I'll thank you in particular. I remember reading something good, but yes, the game hasn't become like a weird, ephemeral nothing Call of Duty Modern Warfare thing. It's very much still like old game geometry, which I like, and yeah, they just added more largely superfluous stuff, but I don't hate it. But yes, this stuff, we can just walk through it, but it doesn't look too bad, I don't mind. Halo always had a bit of grass and stuff on the ground, they can just do more now. That lighting is probably a bit more complex than the last machine could manage. I think it's kind of we're halfway between both of the different Halo 2 graphics, original and remastered. And yeah, Master Chief Collection, there's no remastered graphics. They've still got the Halo 3 remake under their hat to keep the brand alive for another few years once they're done with 1, I suppose, but yeah, I was reading, this game originally ran at something not quite at 720p resolution, I believe, so what's the difference between this and launch Halo 3? As far as I know, it's just graphics upscaling. I haven't heard of any effects or details that are lacking in the PC port. As far as I heard, it's basically correct how they updated it. And there's the piece of the Forerunner ship we ejected to land on. I think the idea might be that the Chief kind of heat shielded himself behind this thing to land, which is a neat little detail that, you know, look, they did a show don't tell, that the chief, like, rode this thing down from outer space like a surfboard and kind of bounced off it at the end and landed over here. And there's Sergeant Johnson over there who rescued us in the Arbiter, so obviously they got to Earth as well after the events of Halo 2, like everyone rushed back here, it was the important place to be. Earth's location isn't a secret to the Covenant anymore, but the question is just kind of, what Covenant? The only reason humanity isn't doomed is because the Covenant doomed itself at the exact same time by, yeah, starting a civil war, and their capital got eaten by the Flood at the same time, so humanity's on the back foot here, but so are the Covenant. It's kind of the humanity's last redoubt getting hit by the Covenant's last effort. So, yeah, everything is coming to a head in this game. They did establish our starting premise kind of okay. Last thing I'll say before we move on, just that Johnson was there, and yeah, kind of to appreciate what he was saying, you have to know where we were at the end of the last game. But also, what I just want to get out is that he's the protagonist of Joseph Staten's novel that came out a month after this game. It was meant to come out, I think, slightly before, but yeah, Staten was kind of pushed aside at the start of development and came back, and he also has a couple of important lines here and there about working with Jason Jones on a few key elements as well, that the original team didn't decide how Halo 3 was going to go down, but they weren't absent either, they were just less prominent. They were kind of a supporting force in what was their own game and, you know, is their world. But, like, yeah, the key DNA contributors of Halo are, like, probably Jason Jones and then Joseph Staten and so on. But they were kind of not the leads here. But yes, Staten had a very much more worked out idea of who Johnson was, and this kind of gets into just a particular trait of game writing, especially when you write with integrity and restraint and, you know, focus like Bungie used to, rather than the kind of decadent, indulgent sprawl of meaningless dog shit that characterizes video games made like 2012 onwards. You write a fucking in-game book of boring generic copyright about nothing. Anyway, where was I going? Yes, Staten always had like very worked out ideas of who these characters were, and it's not that this game is like vapid that there's, you know, just Sergeant Cool Black Man who just talks fast and has one-liners. I think that they correctly decided that that is all that a video game has room for, and yeah, that's not a failing as a writer, that's just... As a writer who is working on a video game specifically, I think that that is good taste and good sense that Sergeant Johnson doesn't have his fucking 12-page backstory in a document I can find if I pick up a data pad in the middle of playing the fucking game. You know, everything is writing, and the final state of a video game is kind of a crystallization of the production design. If Sergeant Johnson feels memorable, it's largely yes just because of the actor who started playing him just gave like a lot of very fun impromptu improvised lines in Halo CE that they liked, so they made him kind of a pseudo character than a real character in Halo 2. But also just, again, the amount of like work that went into figuring out who these people are, there's more than is visible in the final game. It's a everything that Johnson is compressed in this game into what a video game should be. They create a character who could carry a novel, and they make him a guy who mostly delivers one-liners, and I think that that is, yeah, just a level of class and restraint that we don't get out of video games anymore. Again, that's just very much the whole what Halo is and why people underestimate it so much, because it's very much kind of the old video game philosophy, and I think a very good one, to basically underwrite in the final iteration. You design, think out, write, and then you only really make what's needed to carry the specific final experience, which is, you know, largely fundamentally a game that you run through, so... look at me go. Hey, Arbiter. Yes, it's a game which you largely just run through on a tear, so, you know, we don't have room for that. It's all going to be physically it's all going to be spiritually there. Everything which you finally see is going to be informed by this stuff underneath, but, you know, we don't have to give it to you.
Chief.
Thank you, Johnson. Ooh, your face is lit a bit funny there. Yes, also some of the, critics from
Bravo team,
2007 or
Johnson.
whatever
Got
said
it.
that the,
Fall back to the
faces
extraction
were a
point.
bit shit. I don't think they're too bad, but yeah, the lighting was not kind to Johnson there. When we have a moment with Marines, I think in the next level we'll be able to look at their faces. And yet the game can generally render more stuff. There are like 10 Marines running around us now. When the game does big open moments now, they're better than they were in the last game. They're more elaborate. So we're in a kind of Halo 2 corridor here, but this game does open up at a few points a bit like Halo Combat Evolved. The kind of construction philosophy of this game feels like something halfway between 2 and Combat
Sergeant
Evolved.
Major, Phantom inbound.
I don't think it ever achieves the kind of open myth-like brilliance of Combat Evolved in its encounters, but it's a bit more dynamic than 2. It has parts that really just let you revel in the potential of Bungie's engine, which is very nice. We kind of lost that in Halo 2, largely I think just because of the, you know, we were pushing the limits of the tech, and also we had to make our movie game get finished. I wonder if the shadows were like that on the 360, but yes, there's a little custom animation you're not meant to pay attention to explain where half our Marines are going. Sorry if this is all over the place, but just a lot on my mind. If you're still watching at this point, you probably just like listening to me. Here's our new Covenant. Oh, and by the way, here's our new guns. God, there's so much to talk about. On normal, nothing will put up much resistance. But yeah, this looks fine, I guess, but does this game have as much visual character as Halo 1 or 2?
But you are fools to do their bidding.
Yes, there's the Arbiter just having a little line in the subtitles reminding us that he's in this game. The prophets are liars, you're fools to do their bidding. Good job, Arbiter, you still have development, you're a character. Yeah, if Halo 2 was the Arbiter's game, unfortunately this is just kind of the finishing things up game, which doesn't really feel like it has a character who goes through anything in it, unfortunately. The Arbiter is kind of a... like, there's a bit... they kind of remember him at a couple of points and let him say things. He has, like, one cutscene to be himself again, but yes, for the most part, this game is largely just wrapping up loose ends in kind of a dry, distant manner. Because, yeah, that Joseph Staten line, Halo 2 is really the Arbiter's game. Who is Halo 3? Whose game is Halo 3? Do you say the Chief's? The Chief was always underwritten in that typical Bungie way, which is fine enough when he stands in for ideas, but yes, it does mean that this game is, again, lacking a bit of character. That was fine in Halo Combat Evolved, where really the world is the star, like you're just experiencing this moment in this very rich science fiction world where, you know, you kind of read the ideas through as subtext of everything else that's going on, but this game structurally more strongly resembles Halo 2, which means it's a movie game in which...
What runs newfound courage is but fear. When we are victorious, all who serve the prophets will be punished.
Yes, if you have subtitles on, you can hear the Arbiter and follow his moral... his newfound sense of self, his new characterization as a man who has seen the light, but... what was I saying? Yeah, he really doesn't get to shine much here. Like, Halo 2 is a game which becomes cinematic, but it's able to do a lot with that because it has a character-driven story, like the one who develops over time and experiences and is the subject of intrigues and grows as a person. You know, none of these are essential rules for a story, as I'm always saying. Like, don't try to... if you want to make coherent criticism, don't reduce things to rules, but yes, that is a justification for the story's presentation, switching to a linear cinematic mode rather than kind of the just dropping you into big open spaces and having general events happen which speak for big ideas, like No, it's a personal scale story in which personal scale drama happens. But Halo 3 is oddly a game without personal scale drama, so you just kind of go through motions which are kind of shaped like human character drama, but are just not compelling because nothing that makes that kind of thing work is present. Oh hey, a skull. Dizh. Wasn't even looking for that, but we'll pick it up briefly. Those unlock stuff, but I don't really care about that. The blind skull. We don't need that, but thank you, game. Oh yeah, by the way, full ragdolls, there's some tech power at work. Half-Life 2, eat your fucking heart out. These are a lot more fun. Still get the same punch sound effects from Halo 1. And off he goes. Look at that splash. That's brilliant. But yeah, our tech differences are largely just... I mean, our visual differences are largely tech. The game is a bit bouncier because it can render more. That's very vivid blood, about all you can say for it. I kind of want to say that the visual character... I think I went into this a bit before. The visual character, I think, may just suffer from the mere fact that as we get more tech and feel compelled to use it and show it off and integrate it into the classic Bungie style, avenues for expression kind of close off because the correct way to handle light and color just becomes, you know, the flashiest way to do so rather than a way that gets at something particular aesthetically. Like, we had levels that were gold, we had levels that were gray in the last game. Now we have levels that are naturalist outdoor lighting because, holy shit, the Xbox can do that. This will be actual graphics in 2010. Yeah, it's fine, I don't hate it, but it could be... Where did that second pistol go? I have no idea. But it's nothing that flashy, I won't miss it. But, yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, it's basically what happened to the Halo 2's visuals in the revision. The March of Progress just kind of eating your avenues of expression as light goes from a kind of painterly tool which you know, color and characterize a level with to a kind of technician's problem of how do we get the sunlight acting like the real sun so that all of the 2000 gamers will go, whoa, actual graphics, realer than real. And yeah, I guess to their credit, upscaled by the power of the mediocre PC, this game looks pretty good now, for the most part. Like, aesthetically, Halo's ideas are still fundamentally here. I like that that mountain over there kind of forms the same shape as the ring looming above you. Even though we're on Earth, we still get a nice distant detail. It's a very thoughtful thing they pulled off there. The shape of the assault rifle still fundamentally correct, and the world still looks like a 3D Bungie game world in that way I like, but we're getting less interesting all the time. Now, the key thought I wanted to get out earlier, sorry if I didn't, was that I keep mentioning Joseph Staten and saying that yes, his vision for what Halo could be and his ideas as... I don't think he called himself or anyone was explicitly planning for this or saying so, but he kind of approached Halo as a cinematic project and that became the character of his game. And so I say that, yes, Halo 1 is Jason Jones' game, it's his approach to making games, it's his approach to telling a story, it's primarily his ideas. Halo 2 is Staten's game. I don't know if I got to the end of that thought before, but Halo 3, it was the committee game, but if you want to pin it on a person, I think that it's Marty O'Donnell's game. And it's the weakest of the three for reasons we can get into. We will have to talk a bit about Marty as we go, especially as the plot develops and his ideas on drama and depth, which are a bit naive. Again, I don't want to be mean to anybody. Marty seems like a very nice guy. I'm sure he'd be very easy to talk to for the most part, rather affable. He probably wouldn't like me, but if he didn't know who I was, he might like me quite a lot. Is kind of where I'm going with that, you know what I mean. Just read between the lines of what I'm saying. But... yeah, sorry if this has been a very meandering video, even by my standards, but... God, the production of Halo 3, I could literally talk about it for hours. I may have to even devote an episode of The Anthony Show, still pending, to this. I got a couple of friends who know the production of Halo quite well, could pick one or two, get them in. Ah dear, but yes, Halo. Want to look at the guns while we're here, by the way. We have a moment to sit, so why not? This episode will just be this first level, by the way. I'm just talking too much. I won't torture you with 2 in a row. Give you some time to miss me again, then we'll go on with another episode. But yeah, they kinda... The pistol is not a USP anymore. It's basically the Halo 1 revised to be a bit more detailed in line with the potential of the Xbox 360, a couple more glowing lights and a couple more lines and grooves. But otherwise, yeah, it's another like weird front-heavy future pistol. And the assault rifle, still fundamentally faithful to the kind of design language of the UNSC as we started. It's still a kind of lean, mean, all business thing. Oh yeah, by the way, they removed this from Halo 2. I forgot about that for a moment, but yeah, they brought it back, and its role is a bit confusing now. What is it really for? I don't know. Kind of does a bit of everything. It's alright. I do think sound-wise, we are actually approaching the kind of Halo 4 Overwatch gun hell. We're not that bad yet, but, like, listen to this, like... Remember how, like, the Halo 1 assault rifle sounded? Like, that thing was shooting metal. Like, that's just metal ripping out of more metal. Like, brrrr. Like, it's a somewhat cartoony video game world sound, but, like, I can't do the sound justice. Like, it has this very, like, rough analog edge to it. It doesn't sound like any real gun, but aesthetically, like, the impression you get from it thematically is, like, a hard business machine that's, like, yeah, metal grating against metal, like, just heat, metal, rough, hard edges, and pain. Whereas this thing, it's kind of... Okay, you get ricochets, which is fucking awesome, I love that. Look at him go, I'm deflecting and hitting the trees and stuff. Oh yeah, you can also hit yourself. I think. Well, we're getting nice ricochet sounds, which is a point for the game, but yeah, it also sounds a bit pop-gunny, which is a bit lame, and yeah, no aesthetic butchery of the plasma pistol, though. Like, in general, as far as visual design goes, again, they made this right after Halo 2. They didn't really have time to change stuff or any reason to. Like, the visual direction of this game is basically Halo 2 with more tech, and I think that any serious aesthetic changes are just because tech basically overrode an artistic function. Like, lighting goes from expressive kind of light abstraction based on color to basically just naturalism, which is a bit less interesting, but you know, it's natural light shining down onto the same fundamental shapes. Like, these plasma pistols, they just look like the Halo 1 plasma pistols with a bit more tech behind them. And that tech causing obligations for more detail, unfortunately, but not a crippling amount. I do think that, again, like, it's like the character designs being made for this particular resolution and CRT, and the quirks of CRT monitors and stuff, like how the character models look a bit sharp-edged and overly defined for the, like, even just running the original, quote, graphics in the Master Chief Collection. Like, no, it really was made, and the character is informed by the tech that was available. The design of the plasma pistol really is something that was made for how stuff looked on the Xbox originally. Like, that's what they brought it to a shine for. Like, all of the tech in Halo, I think at its base, like all of the old stuff that was there from the start, it really was made to, like, render in that weird original Xbox style of, like, really, really sharp, really, like, shiny, glossy, simple metallic surfaces. That was, like, what the Xbox was optimized for more than anything else, so, like, every really memorable and striking thing on that machine drew into that. Ninja Gaiden Black, Panzer Dragoon Orta, Halo Combat Evolved, all of the really fucking cool Xbox games were playing with that, and yeah, we still have a bit of that, like, shine preserved here, but you know, it's not original Xbox shine, it's Xbox 360 realist shine. I think they did an admirable job translating a design optimized for old tech to new tech, but yes, I do think that it's a shame, even by Bungie, trying to visually update Halo. It's just kind of like, no, Halo is so much Halo is like visually a product of its home hardware in addition to the ideas behind it and the sensibilities of its designers. Like, even Shi Kai Wang drawing the same thing, like, yeah, he was at least somewhat informed by what was possible on the Xbox. Like, I believe he was making a lot of the 3D models in that game. I don't remember how many he made, but I'm pretty sure it was a lot. Like, he has stories about, like, physically modeling the elites after he drew them. And so, like, good on him. He was the one who, like, was telling Jason Jones, like, no, man, I'm the one who has to, like, model and animate this guy, like, getting into a ghost. The elite will not move right or look right if he has a tail, and I think that was the right call. I really can't imagine elites in Halo having tails. They would look quite funny, I think, but yeah, just Halo 3 looks pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's very faithful, very intelligently done. Just, yeah, again, I think mostly we just have tech kind of nudging out expressive potential. And I mentioned in Halo 2 when we got the Brute shot, we'd see more Brute weapons, and again, Bungie are still trying to tell you the story through how stuff looks. This is a native Brute gun, the Spiker, and it's basically like a Needler but more blunt and evil. These things don't explode, they just do damage by being sharp. It's basically a gun that shoots spikes, and it's got a little like tusk axe head or like double axe head built into the bottom for stabbing things once you're done shooting them, because the Brutes are just violent and mean like that. There it is. This gun has tusks because it's just fucking badass. And speaking of the Brutes, I mentioned that they were only cool Sasquatches for one game. Behold the degeneration of the Brute after one generation. They were Sasquatches, now they are mostly hairless, so they have kind of elephantine legs, big, strange, silly, grasping paws, and these kind of sad sub-5 male warehouse worker Pombero faces, which, yeah, they look kind of like gorilla men with ugly facial hair and really badly rendered Xbox 360 haircuts. Yeah, like this guy is like, his facial hair and haircut, he's trying to style himself like Fred Durst or something. It's all just a bit sad. I'm always willing to give things a break. I understand that people want to try new things, not everything works out perfectly, and these guys are doing a hell of a lot more with themselves than I've ever done, but yeah, the new Brutes, not really a winner in my opinion. You might have seen that, like, the structure of fights fundamentally in this game, Brutes now fill the role that Elites did because the Arbiter and his Elites are our friend, they all know the score. So you now get, like, packs of Jackals, squads of Grunts being led by Brutes. And serious fights are teams of Brutes using different weapons, and they are now the fundamental enemy, and we'll talk more about them as they come up, but yeah, they got visually redesigned and no one else did, and maybe they wanted them to look less scary, more coherent. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, they're different and I enjoyed them more last time. Here's the Arbiter. He looks exactly the same, just a bit upscaled. His armor looks kind of cleaner, like it's just like a plastic costume rather than like weird old metal viewed through like a gloomy overcast filter. He just looks a bit less fancy to me. And our Marines, again, looking at them last time, I came to appreciate the Halo 2 armor as kind of like a less bulky version of the Halo 1 Marines, like its plates on top of a relatively sensible military kind of jumpsuit fatigues thing. Halo 3, they kind of kept to the same premise again, but revised it where they wear this kind of bulky plate upper stuff and you know, there's a bit on their legs as well, under what are recognizably like desert fatigues. Again, it's the 2000s. America was very gung-ho for its nonsensical desert wars still at this point, but yeah, I think they're trying to visually kind of bring Marines more in line with the Chief, but in a more vulgar way, where like, in Halo 1, what do the Marines and the Chief have in common? It's that they have like the same underlying design language of simplicity, function, bulky, unadorned shapes, like plain, mostly plain kind of earth tones like green, gray, brown, while the Covenant are these kind of ornate, over-the-top, florid, decorative reds and blues and purples and all these weird, shimmering, curving, naturalist shapes. Here, I think they didn't know, maybe they doubted anyone would get the picture, so like, the Marines have to look like they're wearing shitty Pombero versions of Master Chief armor. Like, look, it's a big green helmet, big green patches that kind of buff out his silhouette, and it kind of looks like a motorbike helmet. Isn't that cool, American audience? Yeah, I'm not blown away by it. And the critics, they weren't crazy about their faces, but like, yeah, I mean, this is simple, but Jesus Christ, man, what do you want? These guys, their job is to run around a dozen at a time and get hit by stuff and blown up and go, wah, as they fly away. And yeah, 40,000 lines, so they can talk if I walk up to them.
Something wrong?
Is something wrong? Nah.
What's going on?
He's okay, we have nothing against our pal here. But yeah, I don't mind their faces, they're a bit on the primitive side, but...
Alright, and now it's officially creepy.
Are they getting impatient with me? Maybe. I would understand if they were. I'm taking quite a while here, and if you're getting impatient, you know where the right arrow key is. I won't feel bad. I assume if you're still with the program at this point, there is a lot you will give me slack for. But yeah, if you think I'm ever pushing it, do feel free to say so in the comments. I won't be hurt, it's quite alright. I understand that this stuff can go and go, but again, it's all very much, I refuse to edit. I believe that the editing arms race is responsible for the sorry state of YouTube and critical discourse. If I am going to err one way, it will be this way. You are getting a genuine stream of consciousness, that's why you're here. A genuine experience of Halo, one individual to another, me to you. What do I think? All of this bullshit. Thank you, Tutorial Marine. Oh yeah, I got a achievement one of my recent Halo 2 sessions for killing 7 enemies without being detected in a row. Do you guys remember me doing that? I don't remember doing that. I think it might have been like a mistake or something, I don't know. I don't remember silent killing 7 enemies with backstabs in a row in Halo 2. But whatever. Doosh! Get tusked. So yes, the Marines, a bit simple, but that's very much an approach to design that I enjoy. Just build them up to stack them, make them robust, rather than a couple of boring, high-detailed guys. Like, if you ask me, Halo should be constructed like EDF. It should be about like 500 Marines at once. Every generation just scale up the amount of shit running around on screen and having reactions with each other. But unfortunately for me, even EDF isn't really built as I would have it. Not enough of the scenarios are built around the very entertaining chaos of like NPC soldiers fighting the giant ants. That's Earth Defense Force, those Japanese games, if you don't know what I'm talking about. EDF. Earth Defense Force. I still have got no grenades. Whatever. Die, die, die. More of that spontaneous dialogue for you. But yeah, the structure of encounters now, it is brute leading grunts rather than elite leading grunts, but yeah, I do believe that the brutes are just less interesting. There's his new version of the Berserk state. It's far weaker than the Halo 2 one because he's gone from an upgraded kind of elite endgame enemy to a generic goon, so he has to be downgraded. He can't be stronger than, like, the elite miners are in Halo 1. Speaking of, someone was telling me, I don't remember this, but people were posting Halo 1 Xbox to PC comparisons, and yeah, it does look a lot nicer than I remember. Again, I don't want to tell you, like, don't play it on PC, like, please don't torture yourself looking for an Xbox or the emulator to play Halo 1 if you haven't. It's really nice in its base Master Chief Collection incarnation. It's not perfect, but it's mostly there. The CRT and the resolution, they do, and a few of the hard-to-replicate old Xbox effects, they do make a notable difference. It looks very nice in its original form, but oh well. Other thought I was getting at, though, is, yeah, Halo 1, apparently, I've heard, and I might actually believe this, that the Master Chief Collection has slightly messed up Elite AI, and they're more dynamic and aggressive in the console version. I could believe that. I think that they're a bit boring in the, possibly, well, I did last play it on normal, which might mess up my memory of it a bit, but yeah, where was I going with that? How are the brutes in this? Well, they basically work like gimped elites, where they have these suits of over armor now, which work sort of like the elite overshield, but it can't come back after it breaks, so you basically reduce a brute to his little lame undersuit thing, which makes him look kind of feeble and naked. Maybe that was intentional, I don't know.
Killed my man.
Oh no, they killed Bravo Squad. But, yeah, they don't feel as threatening because you can permanently cripple them, which incentivizes some kind of lame tactics, which I remember actually using when I played this game and ODST on Legendary. It's quite possible and easy to just kind of, in fights against big groups of brutes, like against elites, you really have to push the bastards and like crack their shield and then kill him, and the elites will try to like take cover like you do and recover their shields so they can get back in the fight. Oop, the Halo 3 rat! Look at him go. Whoops. I don't want to leave this one alone. Oh, he wasn't even alone, now I've got to kill him too. Halo 3 rats, look at them go. But anyway, yes, the brutes, you can just pick off their armor, and then they're very, very weak, and they have no way to recover their strength, which, yeah, just makes them feel like kind of a compromised enemy compared to the old elites. They have, because this game can just support more stuff now, there are a few challenge fights built around fighting lots of brutes. We'll talk about them when we get to them. They're kind of an interesting thing to fight, but yeah, I think they're less interesting and compelling than the elites thematically, conceptually, and this game, its hard fights, they're okay. This game, ODST and Reach, I beat them all on Legendary. They're alright. I wouldn't play this on Legendary. Oh.
Could you sacrifice me to complete your mission? Could you watch me die?
Yeah, I forgot about this. Something not a lot of people like, that
You okay?
much of the story... Much of the story comes in the form of these kind of flashback or invasive thought, long-distance communication, hard to say. You get slowed to a crawl and a big booming voice says something ominous. You could say that's kind of crass and tasteless, and I might even agree a bit. It's a bit lame, I don't like it very much. Nothing that complex or interesting is said in them, but you really have to say that beyond that, the game really doesn't have much space to say anything, and in a sense, that's kind of the most Bungie thing about this game's writing. That and something else we'll get to later, which is rather important, and I'll have to remember where they are. If you know Halo 3, you know what I'm talking about, but this idea of basically, while you're on the ground doing your action, you have these interspersed moments of a higher intelligence, which is kind of the real actor with agency in the plot beyond violence, kind of giving you their running commentary. That's very Bungie, that's very like Marathon, where you talk to the different super intelligent entities who are kind of leading you around. They're the ones really calling the shots while you just make them. Yeah, you have that happening at length in text constantly in Marathon. Updating that to being kind of a voice in your ear is not the worst idea ever, and what we can say is... Oh, there's your grenade tutorial. I was wondering when they'd come in. But yes, what we can say about this is, again, this game has a lot of restraint compared to what video games have become since, where, like, video games, they get a lot of shit for it now from idiots who can't make it into a really coherent critique. They say, like, oh, stop telling me the puzzle answer, God of War, bitch. Let me have an Exploration Vania-born-like experimentation moment where I figure it out myself, like, you know, trying to make these into rules. The problem is just indulgent writing. Hacks want to say too much when they have nothing to say. This game errs on the side of reticence, which, despite still doing this, which I think it deserves more credit for, that they wanted to have important ideas conveyed to you, things they considered important through text just cutting in over the top of gameplay, and yeah, rather than doing what video games started doing freely not long after this, endless fucking yammering in your ear, basically a stage drama, audio drama, radio play going on while you're shooting things, deliver all the lines you want doing that. Halo 3 felt like it couldn't quite do that, I think. The team, they respected you. People say it's kind of stupid the way they put this in, but I think it's actually a sign of their relative respect for players that, yes, this game has its kind of ideas thrown at you through these characters just taking over your screen and speaking at you, but if you stack up how much it happens over the course of the whole goddamn game, it is really not much. It's annoying when it happens because it stops you, but they speak like 5 seconds at a time, and like, yeah, they were thinking this out, and they said, like, any more than that and we're being disrespectful of the player's time and will to keep moving, so yes, we want a first-person shooter where, like, audio monologues convey important information, but we're going to make them as short as possible. That's right, I remembered being able to jump in here. Poor fish. Again, that's Bungie detail. They just love, like, weird world stuff going on. But, yeah, I think rather than being a sign of kind of decay or decline, arguably it kind of is. I recognize the spirit behind the voice cut-ins, and I don't hate it that they are trying to do something fundamentally Bungie that is... Yes, like, the story is kind of happening elsewhere, and it plays into the action you're going through, and they try to do a weave. In Marathon, they did it in text. Here, it's not a text-driven game. They still want the ideas to get out somehow, so rather than getting, like, reading transmissions from Cortana, you hear them. That's fine. And yeah, I wish more games had the... Rather than saying I don't want any game to do this, my thought is, Jesus, I wished more games thought that they wouldn't dare impose upon themselves more than like 5 seconds per half hour. Like, that's happened once in this level, it might happen once again. Think of like any shit first-person shooter, just mono game, aspirational shit made after this. How much time is spent with people saying shit you care even less about into your ear? This game was really trying to still be all business in the sense of like, okay, we need to like justify each element that is here. They might not have been as correct as they were in Halo 2, but they still believe that, you know, this is a thoughtful work, and they believe that they have to justify every element of it. They want every part to be good, have a justifiable place in the scheme of things, and yeah, again, it's just kind of, you know, the better people are always going to be doubting themselves. The best posters on the internet are lurkers, the best artists aren't going to like their work a lot, they're going to be skittish. Bungie, who have all of this wealth of ideas and their writers are much better than average in video games, they think, oh gee, we don't want to like impose upon the player, we're only going to talk for a few seconds at a time in our like conclusion to Halo. Whereas like every shit game writer now is like 500 quadrillion hours of semi-mandatory listening to my characters speak at you, walking slowly behind them and bullshit like that. God, it really... They hated JonTron because he said the truth. Assassin's Creed 2 really doomed video games by creating the, like, semi-dynamic audio drama about nothing which goes nowhere model. I remember in, like, 2010 or 11, whatever, Assassin's Creed 2 felt compelling because it was new technology, like a big-as-fuck world, and the kind of Obama slick aesthetics where you're like in Italy, cool, and you're in the future and it's a cool guy with a hood. And you know, it was all just good enough to stay novel. You're diving around shooting people and stuff, and that's stabbing people and stuff, and so it doesn't really matter that the dialogue doesn't make sense and there's a lot of it. You do just enjoy moving through the city or whatever. Like moving through this kind of boring, in retrospect, recreation of a part of medieval Italy or whatever, Renaissance. Not quite as compelling as the Echo 4, as the crashed Pelican in 343 Guilty Spark in the first game, but they're still trying, again, just excessive amounts of production value and effort all over the joint in Halo still. But, yeah, a bit less interesting, and, yeah, it's a shame that they had the will to make, like, 40,000 lines of dialogue, and they make you listen to none of them. Like, that is how much incidental dialogue is in this game, and that's... Again, the spirit of Bungie, for better and worse, is just that they've always been very willing to under-design, and that is a tendency that stayed here. And as I was just saying, like, worse people will feel that less. Halo 4 is far more confident and in itself and happy to impose upon you than Halo 3, 2, and 1. You know, they thought they were onto some fucking, like, nuclear hot shit with that Captain Pulaski or whatever the fuck they had going in Halo 4. I was talking to him about him with my friends earlier, and no one said his actual name, so I still don't know. I just remember he sounded Polish. I'm gonna call him Pulaski for lack of a real name. But yeah, like all those serious drama moments, Halo 4, 5, Infinite, they fucking love talking at you. This game, it's like, you know, it was considered like an offensive intrusion by a lot of people, but it is downright reticent by the standards of every game since. It's like, sorry, excuse me, player, crazy new thing we're trying, we're going to have Cortana talk to you for like 2 seconds. And people are still mad. That's kind of crazy. We didn't know how good we had it. This is still fundamentally a Bungie game. It's a work made by serious people who have real ideas that the game is trying to express and manifest, and they are happy to err on the side of saying less. They are fundamentally reticent people. That is the philosophy behind this game. By the way, check out the screen and screen on my scope. Tarkov can't do that, but this game can. Well, I mean, it can, but it explodes my computer when Tarkov does it, but Halo 2's doing it just fine. What have they got? Halo 3's doing it, I mean. Bungie super science. Oh no, they got Johnson. And yeah, we can get a good look at some brute over armor there, and it's a bit shitty, isn't it? And as you can see, the brute non-recharging armor just makes them very goddamn vulnerable. So I can... Well, I guess to the game's credit, I had to find this thing back there, so I'm kind of rewarded for my going to check out what was going on with the Banshee. Oh, look, there, though, is a brute doing something I can't deal with right away. He had a invulnerability on. This game has items in addition to grenades, and they have strange effects that do things like that, and I believe, having read the weapons document for Halo Combat Evolved, it was actually planned as far back as Halo 1. Things like the invisibility and overshield pickup, in fact I think they're the only ones in Halo 1. I think they were meant to be deployable abilities at one point, like they are in this game, and they didn't quite get in, but obviously that idea was kicking around in Bungie, like they might have considered it for 2 as well, and you know, they want features to kind of pad the back of the box for Halo 3, and I guess they tried it out in the multiplayer toolbox of stuff you mess around with, and it worked okay there, so they put it in. What am I saying? Just a long way of getting around to the point of that, yes, there are item drops in this game, which give you weird little temporary boons or buffs, or they do things to the battlefield, and that brute was just using one. And I was talking in the last game about how Bungie like giving you stuff that's cool rather than just forcing you to look at it sadly from a distance, and someone mentioned the hammer in Halo 3 to me eventually turning up. That, yeah, remember Tartarus slaughtering those brutes with his big-ass hammer? Now we're Tartarus. This is just a regular weapon that semi-common enemies carry. Big brutes like to bring the hammer down to bear on you, and you can just beat their ass with it after. You can beat up all of their friends with it after you take this thing. Here's your reward for beating up a brute chief. You get one of these. And grenade down there. Look at it go. And oh yeah, the bubble shield. That's another one of these abilities if you didn't know. So they do create some dynamic little circumstances. I think that the brutes would really struggle for stuff going on if they didn't have these, and it's a good way to just get a bit more out of the game. Is that fish setting off my motion tracker, by the way? That's funny if so. But yeah, brutes there are a bit less interesting overall, compensated for a bit by their ability to just drop bubble shields and stuff and kinda, you know, they have a lot of brutes have a card up their sleeve. They'll deploy one of these abilities and do something to the battle around you. Kinda interesting, not mind-blowing. But yeah, I'm not crazy about talking about these games as games. I have no interest in giving a lecture on good game design and weapon sandboxes. No one who made a video game you like made to video game school, I can almost guarantee you. And also, almost certainly, they weren't watching YouTube videos on game design. A lot of games that succeed now are doing that, but none that are of interest to me. I don't look these things up and try to avoid people I think are lame. It's just that my taste holds and is accurate. I can basically, you know, I like people who work a certain way and don't like people who work another way, and yeah, my taste is just consistent because it's drawing on real things. People who think a certain way consistently make stuff I don't like. I think I've just got their number. I know how to think about them. Does that make sense? Just that I don't have to, like, worry about exceptions to my own thinking is what I'm trying to say. Like, I have never found something I liked and then thought, like, oh, what a, like, shame it came from some, like, process or pipeline of way of knowing that I consider gay. I need to revise my rules or say, this is the good one. Like, no, I have never played a game or seen one that looked interesting to me or played one that I liked and then learned, like, oh yeah, this game was sponsored by, like, Video Game Donkey's Game Design Academy. Like, no, I think that's an impossibility just because, you know, due to the various things that will manifest if that path is followed, I will not like the final result. My favorite games come from places like Russian nerd who likes shitty action movies and guns, trying to make a single-player game and accidentally inventing a new multiplayer medium. I have been Nikita Boyanov's strongest soldier for some time. You can go through some RPG Codex posts I've made. I've been calling him basically exceptionally generous as far as people making games go, and really badly hurt by his obvious faith in the ideals of gamers. As stated by gamers, which means they are bad ideals which hurt him for no reason. But anyway, what was I saying about Halo 3? I don't know, but there's something to say about it all over. Look, the Sniper Jackals now have a unique visor, which I can't see because his ragdoll is clipping through stuff. Thanks, game. We'll look at one later. Oh, here's one. Yeah, there's the Sniper Jackal, like, murder goggles. these guys earned a reputation in Halo 2, so it's cool that they tricked them out. He's not just a guy holding a certain thing anymore, he's a class of enemy. And it really accentuates his raptor beak because, yeah, the jackals are birds, not dinosaurs, and that's what's cool about them. That he is a bird of prey, a humanoid bird of prey, and he snipes you. That's cool and makes sense. And this guy, yeah, again, I just think that he's like a sad gorilla mutant warehouse worker who's into nu metal. Like, he just doesn't look cool in this game like he did in the last one. The way his eyes render in his head looks sad rather than menacing. Like, he doesn't look like a 28 Days Later zombie, he looks like... I don't know, he just looks like Pombero, like he looks Pomberic, like he's about to cry. Like the set of his face, and that's not just me saying that, like people have been noting for a while that something looks kind of helpless and lost about the brutes. It was the big meme that came out of the Halo Infinite trailer in which they were still basically modeled like this, that we got Craig the Brute, because in the trailer for Halo Infinite there was this like frame close-up of a brute's face where he just has this like depressed, supreme, letting go look on his face when the Master Chief is about to hit him. Like, you read this brute's thoughts in that moment and he's just saying like, it's okay, it doesn't matter, none of this matters. Like, look at this guy, like the position I've punched him into, he looks like he's crying. Like he's in bed, he got dumped by his fat girlfriend at the nu metal show. And like, why does he have scales on his arm? He's Sasquatch! God, why did they redesign the brutes? I don't know why they did this to them, but they made him like a scaly gorilla, and I've never been able to really respect them since. It's a shame. And of course that's a problem when they have to carry the series like they planned in Halo Infinite. Apparently I can't break this skylight in. Nope, but we can go around and we have to rescue Sergeant Johnson, and that's the end of this level, and I guess that's the end of our intro to Halo 3. Sorry if this didn't feel that informative, but yeah, I revise nothing, I substantially edit nothing. You are my thoughts to your ears. This is the purest channel on YouTube, the last pure Let's Play channel not run by some like weird Pomberic slave operating on the mental level of Creeper Man. That's the two extremes of earnest video game engagement left. But yeah, good job, team. I guess we lost a Marine at some point, but we still got 3 of you.
Would you stop staring at me?
I was actually staring at him, but yeah, sure. Actually, no. The more I think about it, like, yeah, Lord 2007 video game critics, these faces do look weird the more I look at them. I appreciate that they're almost doing like an RTS unit thing where like, yeah, Halo is all about building at scale and stuff unfolding, so I don't mind that. I'm not going to dock points from a game constructed like this because if I look closely at the faces of a dynamic actor, they don't have enough like weird cheek fuzz like fucking characters from Horizon, that fucking game I can never remember. Oh no, his buddies didn't make it.
We're even, long as we're only counting today.
Very good.
Kilo 2-3, what's your ETA?
What's he gonna take off the shelf? A needler? Whatever. Want the hammer?
Roger that, Hocus. Friendly gunship coming in hot.
He will not take the hammer. Stay alive, Pelican inbound. Oh yeah, you can blow up phantoms in this game, I'm pretty sure. That's a big tech boost for you. You can, but not with the weapons I'm holding, so get to cover, people. Do I have... Can I land a grenade inside that bastard? Not with a throw like that. Piss weak, Anthony. But we're on normal, so we just kind of stand around and tank this. Item deploy! The regenerator is one of the less interesting ones. It just makes your shield go up when you stand next to it. It's more interesting when the enemies deploy it, I think. It regenerates the weird armored shell of the brutes. Yeah, look at how sad his little Pomberic chase is now compared to even on normal in the last game, I was getting killed by these guys every now and then because they just like, they're so aggressive, you don't get a chance to recover when they chase you. But now he really looks like an enemy who's built to give you a loose idea that he's chasing you, but... Oh yeah, there's them showing off that pelicans can explode. It's not just a scripted thing, but in this level it is scripted that the pelican shows up and uses missiles to blow those up. But yeah, we'll try to blow one of those up later. But yeah, the brute, when he chases you, it's very much like, ooh, I'm going to get you, like haunted house ride decoration, like he's just supposed to go blah. He's not actually meant to be a serious threat who will fuck you up, unfortunately.
Anyone in there?
You tell him. There's more of those 40,000 lines for you. Oh yeah, and the grunts can lose their gas masks in this game, and I consider it a bit sad how they decided they look underneath. They couldn't make the grunts cute, no, they have to be these, like, weird little demented, stony, bony face things, like... Ah, well. Let's pretend we didn't see that. Just pretend this is the face of a grunt, the gas mask. In general, the eyes of every entity don't quite sit right in the head in this game. A problem in general of advanced graphics, I think, when they stop painting the eyes on, that you get this, like, weird... free orb inside the head. Okay, let's get in. We'll watch the start of the next level. Okay, so that's a brief Halo 3 experience for you. Yeah, so we really don't start the game with any fanfare. We basically pick up where Halo 2 left off. And which is why I keep saying that this game really should just be played as the other part of Halo 2. Like, this game is really not aesthetically or dramatically justified as its own experience, if I'm frank. Like, I hate to say things that sound negative, this will be called Let's Appreciate, but yeah, if you're playing Halo 3 on its own, it's a very, like, dry, drab, boring game, which I can't recommend. Halo 3 as Act 3 of Halo 2, it's an ending, it gets you there.
Sorry for the tight squeeze. Tell the commander her ace is in the hole.
But, like, every scene of this game, like, I was saying about the justified construction, like, for a video game it still is, but, like...
Check it out.
Why does this game have cutscenes? What is happening in them?
Oh man, he's here. We're gonna be
Where did you find him?
Napping. Out there.
There's Miranda Keyes. She doesn't look as nice as she did in Halo 2, but
Likewise.
she's alright.
Let's get you up to speed.
Her hair is no longer anime hair, which is a shame. Like, she no longer looks like a PS2 character transplanted to...
Terrestrial casualties.
She no longer looks like a,
Extreme.
Western version of
Could have
what
landed
teenage
anywhere,
girls
but you
look like on the
committed all
PS2.
forces here, East Africa, the ruins of New Mombasa. Then
Like,
we
her
started
hair
the
isn't
war.
framing her face in the same way it was in the last
What
game.
about
Like, in the
Halo?
last game, it's,
We
like,
stopped it.
very
but
dark,
only
black, and,
temporarily.
like,
Now
hanging
the
at the
Prophet
side,
is
like,
looking
proper
for something
framing of
called
the face. Now it's a more, like,
where he'll be
drab,
able to fire
swept
all
back
Halo rings.
military
If he
thing,
succeeds,
and her face is more...
the Covenant, sentient
she
being
looks
in the
less
galaxy.
girlish in a way I don't like. Like,
Things will kill us
having
all.
the
Man,
almost
I have more
anime
food.
girl
Patch him
be
through.
important
Good news,
in the
Commander
plot
Keyes.
is very funny
Good as it gets, sir.
to me,
So I
and
see.
charming. It just looks nice.
What's your status, son?
Green.
And
Sir.
yeah, in Halo 2
Glad
as
to
well,
hear.
remember,
Commander's come
her
up with a good
role in
plan.
the story was
Without you, I
justified by
wasn't sure
basically
we'd pull
right
it off.
place, right
Troop
time,
ships
and
are
now
clustered above the excavation
she's just
site,
like
and his
largely
infantry
leading the
deployed
war in a way
anti-aircraft
which doesn't make a lot of
batteries around the
sense.
But if we neutralize one of the batteries, punch a hole in troops' defenses,
I'll initiate a low-level strike. Hit him right where it hurts. I only have a handful of ships, Master Chief. It's a big risk, but I'm confident.
So yeah, the war, it's picked back up on Earth.
emergency generators.
We had the
now.
fight for
Shielding
Earth that was
failed. They're
limited
down
in
and
Halo
charging.
2,
As
and
soon as they're up,
now that
reestablish
Truth is
contact
back,
with
they're
Lord.
back,
Let him
Earth
know.
has been beaten to hell.
All of you vermin.
He's being a
Cowering
prick.
in the dirt, thinking, what, I wonder, that you might escape the coming fire? No. Your world will burn until its surface
I'll
is
just let
but
him monologue.
glass, and not even your demon will live to creep blackened from its hold to mar the reflection of our passage, the culmination of our journey. For your destruction is the will of the gods, and I am their instrument.
That's nice, Truth.
Cocky bastard just loves to run his mouth.
Does he usually mention me?
Yeah,
Give the order, we're closing
the
shop.
face animations are more
We're about to
elaborate,
get
but I don't
hit.
think they look as good, and
They're wounded. We're getting all of them out.
again, the scenes, it's all just, why? Here it comes.
Requesting a rally point. Where should they go?
Where should they go?
To war.
Unkino! She said the line! No!
Lost the perimeter camera.
Oh, fucking hell.
They're down or we're not receiving. Can't tell.
But, yes, point I want to get at is, while they're talking briefly,
Wait, Overwatch has contacts. Phantoms closing on our position.
yeah, so this game structurally, it's like mechanically a weird fucking mess as well, where like,
Aye, aye.
this is our Pillar of Autumn level, only it's second, and like in terms of what's going on, like where we're at in the plot, it's very weird. They felt like they had to have a home base attack level near the start of the game, which I think is good, just, yes, it works in a bit weird. Here are guys dressed in like an updated version of the Halo 1 bridge crew outfits, and they're just running around managing stuff, but yes, there's that horrid line from Miranda Keyes, who looks far less Kino than she did in the last game. She looks better in-game than she did in cutscene, I think, but yeah, like, she no longer has, like, the anime hair with, like, the emo teenage girl, like, bits hanging down the side that were, you know, just funny bit of, like, animation showiness in Halo 2, but also gave her that, like, very youthful, girlish edge, which, yeah, that was just something visually striking for the character to have, and now it's just like, okay, there's a, like, woman in the military for some reason in the game now. When you remove the gimmick of her being, like, Captain Keyes' daughter who just shows up in the right place and time, and, like, they really emphasize the youth and kind of ramshackleness of her place in the war, like, oh fuck, only one ship got through the thing in time, like, oh fuck, every ship that happens to be at Earth, get ready to defend, and so on. All of this just feels less thoughtfully constructed on a level of stuff happening, but yes, more importantly on the cutscenes, it's the problem of Halo 4, but not as severe because we're piggybacking off of much more coherent work and more people with an idea of what they're doing are around, but yes, again, Halo 2, extremely purposeful and elegantly written game, which wants to be a sharp, fast-moving movie experience which covers the fundamental ideas of Halo and follows, you know, a new character who has a kind of arc and growth and experiences a bunch of, you know, coherent narrative arcs that develop and pay off and close, or at least go somewhere in his game, whereas, like, yeah, every cutscene is just so purposeful in 2, and here, still, like, relative to the games that follow that have no respect for your fucking time, this game is still reticent and focused, but rather than scenes which really precisely get something very considered and necessary done, it feels more like cutscenes in this game are just kind of happening. Like, they feel like cutscenes from a game made by a kind of more generic and less thoughtful operation than Bungie. Like, it's more like just what video game cutscenes in general were like before, like, 2010 or so, where, like, you know, soldiers just talk shit, a villain monologues about nonsense, and they explain the plan to go kill him against the odds. Yeah, like, that's all happening, but like, if you really think of, like, the amount of things I can just reverse engineer the construction of Halo 2 and appreciate that it's a very intelligent game, and that I can understand that Staten really had a, like, big mental list of things he wanted to do. Like, he is a man who knows how to think well enough to write a novel, which is, like, you know, the big, at-length, elaborating unfolding of your ideas. And Halo 2 is a world of ideas compressed into very focused manifestations. This game, each cutscene is not like knocking out key points of what this game is about. It's all just kind of setting things up for an ending or setting up the next set piece, which is basically the necessary action lead up to the next thing happening, where yeah, this game really is a stretched out third act in which like two notable things really happen, and yeah, basically nothing too purposeful is going on. We're just kind of going through Halo-shaped motions to get those things in place to where they need to be, but as I've been kind of alluding to already, the Halo-shaped motions are already kind of losing their Halo shape. Like, that line, "to war," did that really feel like a Halo-shaped line to you, or did it maybe feel like something different? Was that maybe the writer's room being dominated by the wrong voices? If you've already paused this video to go read the Wikipedia production section, you'll potentially have seen what's gone wrong here, that Marty O'Donnell is kind of a lead voice, and something that was really shaping his idea of what science fiction was at the time. You know, we know Jason Jones loves his classics, we know that Joseph Staten loves Larry Niven, he loves his Ian M. Banks. What is Marty O'Donnell taking cues from to inform how a science fiction epic should work? Wikipedia quotes him directly on this, which is very handy. I'm grateful they do it, so I don't sound like I'm digging up dirt. Marty O'Donnell says that like a key factor in influencing how he rewrote the script, what he thought was how a science fiction epic should end, he watched Serenity. And if you don't know, Serenity is the movie ending to the TV show Firefly, which is by Joss Whedon, the kind of boogeyman of culture in the years that would follow Halo 3's release, where his career kind of flowered, and things really went double-edged for Joss Whedon. He created a format of movie that made billions of dollars, and was also shit, but was defended by a lot of people very viciously for a long time, and basically had the run of culture for a long time. People really just wouldn't take... A lot of people would just, like, assume you were a rabid, bad faith actor if you criticized these movies. It was quite absurd, but... yes, Serenity. It's TV writing. It's aiming to be snappy and superficially emotionally impactful, but it's all kind of tricks, shallow veneers, just, you know, get you comfortable, get you feeling like the characters are your friends, and they have depth because they have like 3 consistent traits that play out over time and shape their interactions. It's not very compelling. The other important detail, Serenity wasn't even necessarily meant to be the ending to Firefly. Characters die in Serenity not because they end arcs or because it really makes the story coherent or better in any way. It's because the actors' contracts weren't renewed because they thought they'd have other stuff coming up. And that especially comes up later when Marty and the writer's room start killing off characters pretty much just because they're copying Serenity, specifically measures that were, you know, dressed up as dramatic payoffs in Serenity, but were actually just pure expedience. If they made more movies, they wouldn't be able to get a couple of the actors back. It's just very, like... It's unfortunately like Halo 4, where I can ask, okay, why is it like this? And Halo 1 and 2, there is enough domination of the good writers and enough of the right kind of production going on, the right people calling shots, the right key decisions being made, the right people making the key decisions, that basically anything about Halo 1 or 2, I ask that, you get an answer which should be satisfactory, that there is some thoughtful reasoning behind all of this. It really is a game in which everything about it is kind of the flowering, the crystallization of the surface of some more substantial idea which you can get some gratification out of exploring, but why is Halo 3 what it is? Unfortunately, it's largely just because a bunch of people of questionable taste with a questionable grip on what they were working with were just kind of going through the motions of what they thought popular commercial culture science fiction is meant to do. Why does this character's story resolve that way? Because it's kind of shaped like Serenity, and these guys found Serenity very compelling, whereas like does anyone really have an does anyone have an individual story which is compelling to follow in this game? No. Halo 2 is the Arbiter's game. He actually has several scenes about and, with him in which stuff happens, and we can plot him over time. A series of things happen to him which are interesting, explore ideas, pay off dramatically. He's just kind of here in this game to kind of acknowledge that. And yeah, same for Johnson, same for Miranda Keyes and everyone. And yeah, I think that this is unfortunately why Joseph Staten got sent on holiday, and why this was ultimately, why I call this Marty O'Donnell's Halo after Joseph Staten's Halo and Jason Jones's Halos. And I do suspect that this kind of thing is probably where all of the disagreement was coming in. Like, we know how Staten thinks that he's like, when he gets told to make another Halo, he actually, he changes it into a movie-like experience, but he knows how to fill that. He justifies that, and I think that we fundamentally failed on this point, and Halo 3 really is kind of the ending to Halo, and a series of scenarios to play around in the same engine with a few changes and revisions, but it really does lack its own kind of justification for basically anything it does beyond the barest narrative representation of the plot ending. And even then, as we'll get into later as it starts happening, it is unfortunately, I believe, a compromised version of the original ending as, written by, as storyboarded by the Bungie team for Halo 2, which was, presumably he's the man who has final say over cutscenes and such, presumably as scripted by Joseph Staten, agreed upon by Jason Jones and the rest of the core team. What a thought that just came to me, I'm still reading the Dune novels. I kind of want to say, geez, this just gets more and more negative, I'm sorry, but I want to say that this is like the Kyle Herbert Dune novels, which I haven't actually gotten around to reading, but I hear that they're like very much not respected at all by Dune fans, where like they aren't thematically getting it, they aren't exploring the interesting underlying ideas. The only really thing of value in them is that through Frank Herbert's notes, they did actually get to the ending of the story, but how much kind of thematic distortion and not getting it can be applied to reaching the ending before it just makes sense to say, like, is this even the ending to the work, or is Halo 3 the ending to Halo 1 and 2? I almost want to say no, just because it kind of betrays so many of the underlying ideas so thoroughly that it basically doesn't make sense and can't be defended particularly well as the ending. And being the ending is the primary justification for this game, like, the reason it exists. And as far as being, like, worth the look goes, like, is it even interesting as a game? If you like playing Halo, it's more Halo, but, Halo is its bones, its underlying informing logic, as I keep saying, and 3 really does compromise that, unfortunately, so it's sad, but yeah, Halo 3 is an ending to Halo, but unfortunately, I don't think it should be considered the ending. Like, really, just the Halo 2 storyboard is the one which, yeah, it just makes sense. Like, it just drags out the Halo 2 story a touch longer, and then thematically lands every idea raised by that game. The Arbiter and Chief get coherent endings to their struggles, and yeah, there's no kind of looming sequence of, alright, so we're just kind of going A to B, A to B, A to B, and then we get to the last act, and the last scenes are Serenity-ified and kind of not even informed by the underlying logic of the games, which again justifies literally everything which is on screen, which unfortunately leads me to conclude this video saying that, yeah, I still will defend this game as overall a manifestation of good Bungie design work back when they were still a studio who could bash some stuff out that was pretty damn good. These guys are pros working hard, they believe in what they're doing, but yes, this is kind of Bungie transitioning into a kind of studio divorced from its guiding spirit. We've lost the kind of guys tooling around in the workshed spirit, which was all kind of crazy experiments and chaos from the 90s, and we've lost the kind of hybrid moment we had of Halo Combat Evolved and 2 being, you know, very rich and experimental works, but reaching a mainstream audience on a level they could still understand and get a lot of joy from. This game is probably best appreciated just as for its technical achievements, those being multiplayer and Forge, the modes which basically use the game's parts for things other than the narrative experience. And yeah, I think that's kind of a tragedy, just because all of these years later, if you want the multiplayer experience, that has been further refined, while the narrative is the part that stands still in time, and it was, yeah, kind of a 7 out of 10 narrative in 2007, and it's still one. Maybe we'll talk about you and your novel next episode, Avery. How does that sound? Sorry if this episode was mostly me just talking around and spinning myself up into a depression about Halo 3, but sorry, man, sorry, guys, the more I think about this game, the less excellent it seems, to put it bluntly, but maybe as we pick up the pace in the next couple of episodes and I actually play the thing, I'll just kind of lose myself in the warthogs and explosions, and I'll be able to reclaim some enchantment. But yeah, like that whole first level, what do we really have to appreciate? The Chief is just in a little jungle, which is a jungle, and he fights Covenant to get from one place to another, and everyone is acting very simple without betraying any really complex underlying pathos anymore. We'll keep going and see what thoughts come to mind. It really is kind of the point of this show that we let the games prompt me rather than me considering what will hypnotize the audience in post-production, and yeah, this is what happens when I let Halo 3 prompt me. I get more and more depressed thinking about it. Let's go get some sound production happening, what little I'll do for you people, and while we're doing that, we'll think of a nice title to match my feelings. Sorry if you were looking forward to some fun, bouncy, energetic Halo 3 times, but maybe next episode, maybe once the Warthogs come out, the one after that, we'll see how fast we go and how much fun we can get from this experience. And yeah, if you listen to all of this, thanks for bearing with me. Please leave comments. Tell me what you thought of this episode. If I'm talking too much, let me know. We can power through this game. Oh yeah, that reminds me, I've also got to reply to the comments from the last couple of videos. Thanks for all them as well, people. I always appreciate them, even if I don't get around to them right away. We will call this one here. Jeez, it's been an ordeal, hasn't it? Thanks again, people. All for you.